unfolding climate and biosphere collapse will make the power structure more desperate and dangerous than ever. The effort to cull and control is being accelerated. And lest we forget that, again, even if the COVID-19 bioweapon had not been let loose to wreak havoc on populations, climate, environmental, and societal collapse were already here. And above it all, the climate engineering, weather, and biological warfare rages on in our skies. If we remain on the current course, we are most definitely doomed. Not my opinion, mathematical and statistical fact. In regard to the COVID virus and factors that may be affecting its lethality, as I made mention of at the closing of my last week's broadcast, where and how do influenza vaccines fit into this equation? What aren't we being told? Consider this. A study published in the prestigious Journal of Vaccine, a peer-reviewed medical journal. This is not an anti-vax journal. It is a mainstream medical journal titled Influenza, Vaccination, and Respiratory Virus Interference Among the Department of Defense Personnel During the 2017-2018 Influenza Season. That's the title of the report. This report reveals that flu vaccines may increase the risk of infection from other respiratory viruses, a phenomenon known as virus interference. The report stated this: examining non-influenza viruses, specifically the odds of both coronavirus and human metapneumovirus in vaccinated individuals were significantly higher when compared to unvaccinated individuals. The statistics in this report translate to this. There was a 36% increase in the case of coronavirus contraction and a 51% increase in the case of metapneumovirus contraction in those who had had the flu vaccine. Again, further clarification and translation. This report came to the conclusion that those who had received the flu vaccine were significantly at higher risk for contracting these two ailments. A 2018 study published in the PNAS, this is the Proceedings for the National Academy of Sciences, found that receiving a flu vaccination might increase aerosol shedding of flu particles 6.3 times more as compared to having no vaccination. That's an over 600% increase. And let's not forget the neurotoxins and other highly toxic elements that are contained in vaccinations and the correlation with various neurological ailments, diseases from autism, ADD, Alzheimer's, dementia, all human diseases directly associated with many of the elements contained in vaccinations. And now we add everything I just covered. Let's take this further because it gets worse. First, consider this next headline from multiple sources, which is in fact disinformation. But after I cover this headline, let's examine more dire and damning facts that relate to the subject matter previously discussed. First, the headline, quote, Italy's coronavirus crisis was accelerated because young Italians spend more time with elderly relatives and took illness home from the cities to the countryside. Oxford scientists say. Oxford, we know who funds that institution that we're supposed to have more trust in while they continue to deceive populations. So on that note, blaming it on Italians being sociable, now consider this report excerpt from multiple sources. Could a new flu vaccine be partly responsible for the COVID-19 mortality rate in Italy? This summary report stated this: the infection rate and mortality rate in Italy to COVID-19 was dramatically higher and is dramatically higher. Why? The official narratives of it being a cause of an elderly population and the failure to implement social distancing soon enough doesn't explain what's happening. In September 2019, Italy rolled out an entirely new type of influenza vaccine. This vaccine, called VIQCC, is different than other types of vaccines. Most available influenza vaccines are produced in embryonated chicken eggs. VIQCC, however, is produced from cultured animal cells rather than eggs and has more of a, quote, boost to the immune system. As a result, the VIQCC vaccine also contains 4 types of viruses: 2 type A viruses H1N1 and H3N2, and 2 type B viruses. So this question arises. Could this new, quote, super vaccine have impacted the immunity system for Italians in such a way as to increase the coronavirus infection through virus interference? That sets the stage for what happened in Italy. Vaccinations and viral pandemics, are they connected? Is that a part of the connection? Again, the equation is very complex. There are many factors in it. Just trying to point out pieces of the puzzle, not the whole puzzle. Please don't misquote me. I'm pointing out factors. Yes, we have different strains of the viruses showing up in different localities all at the same time. Very perplexing. We have an apparent potential vaccination piece of the puzzle that may further affect the equation. We must consider all pieces of the puzzle. We have other environmental factors, radio frequency, microwave transmissions, weakening our immune systems, all parts of the puzzle. But we must look at all of the parts of the puzzle if we're to come to a correct picture, correct conclusions, accurate conclusions, all parts of the puzzle. It's not a this or that equation. It's a this and that and many other factors. Very complex, multi-layered. Same is true with what's happening in our skies with climate engineering, which also is a part of this puzzle. At minimum, weakening our respiratory and immune systems, making us all more susceptible. This is science fact, proven with lab tests from all over the globe, proven with atmospheric testing carried out by geoengineeringwatch.org, proving the elements named in climate engineering patents are being emitted from heavy aircraft in our skies. There's no speculation here, and staying in denial won't save us. All of us are needed to squarely face the truth head on. It's our only chance to face the truth head on and to each do our individual parts toward reaching a critical mass of awareness, which again I've stated over and over and over. It's the only way forward. There is no silver bullet. There's no magic cure. If we can fully awaken populations to understanding they're literally fighting for their lives. And when I state populations, I am also most directly referring to the most important part of our populations at this time to wake up. Military brothers and sisters and law enforcement. And only in waking up populations fully to the gravity and immediacy of what's unfolding, to the fact that their futures, their children's futures, all of that is in the balance. Only then do we have a chance of stopping the insanity from the inside out. Does that mean everything goes back to the way it was? Absolutely not. We are through the guardrail. There's no going back. Now it's a matter of what we can still salvage, but that's absolutely worth fighting for. And absolutely all of us are needed in that battle. Moving on to this question. What is the true death toll of the COVID-19 virus? From the International Business Times, this headline, is China hiding COVID-19 death toll? Question mark. And then this question, 21 million cell phones disappeared. Why? Question mark. The International Business Times is not trying to shove a conclusion forward on this. They're simply asking this question. If 21 million cell phone accounts in China were canceled after the coronavirus, and if 840,000 landlines were closed in China after the virus outbreak, then should we ask this question? Does this sudden drop suggest a much higher coronavirus death toll than we're being told? Another headline from Reuters and other sources. U.S. slashed Centers for Disease Control staff inside China just prior to outbreak. That's interesting, isn't it? How about this headline? President rejects New York's plea for ventilators, saying, I don't believe you need, quote, that many. Another headline. Corporate executives like Jeff Bezos and others sold billions in stocks prior to the COVID-19 outbreak in the U.S. And as already stated, literally thousands of these individuals have already left their post like rats leaving a sinking ship, running to whatever hole they've made for themselves to hide in while society collapses. But the whole ship's going down, as I've already stated. Shouldn't it anger us, all of us, to know that this type of cancer exists in the ranks of our society? So many people helping to facilitate this insanity, either actively or passively, because it couldn't happen otherwise. And for those who are still willing to turn two blind eyes to what is unfolding, to pretend it's not happening, or to tell themselves they can't make a difference for the better, That's not true in either case. Even at this late hour, if all those who are awake and aware would stand together, would make their voices heard in the effort to wake others, and if those then stood with us, collectively, we could yet make a quantum leap in the right direction. And we must feel a righteous sense of anger at what's happening. And if we don't, something's wrong. Consider this quote, which I've covered in a previous broadcast some time ago, but it needs to be said again now, from Thomas Aquinas. He said this: "He who is not angry when there is just cause for anger is immoral." Why? Aquinas asks. And he answers, because anger looks to the good of justice. And if you can live amid injustice without anger, you are immoral as well as unjust. We should all consider that quote deeply. To do nothing is to do something, not the right something. But it is to do something. It is to make a decision to do nothing. And we can't make that decision anymore. We are all needed. All of us are needed to help turn this tide. If we're not here for that, then why are we here? That's a question each of us must answer for ourselves. More headlines.